The Pirelli GT4 America season ends today at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and features a battle royale for the Pro-Am Class Championship. Jason Hart and Scott Noble hold a narrow 4-point edge over Adam Adelson and Elliott Skier with just 60 minutes of racing left to decide the title. The Silver and Am classes have been decided, but the allure of Indy glory remains a worthy goal for every driver in the field. Hello and welcome to the Brickyard, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. It's a pleasure to have your company for the final race of the Pirelli GT4 America season. We'll have Amanda Busick in the pits to help us get through all the action, and it should be fascinating to watch, especially in that Pro-Am class. A little bit of late drama because the chassis that Elliott Skier and Adam Adelson are set to use in this race, it ran earlier today in GT America, powered by AWS, suffered some damage, but the report from the team is the car is repaired and ready to chase a title.
That's great news because this championship is certainly going to be exciting here today. The silver class was decided yesterday. Eric Filgueira, Stephen McAleer, what a year they put together. 10 victories, and they seal the deal. They'll be starting a little bit deep in this field here today at the start of this one. And we've got Aaron Telitz on the pole, who had a very fast Toyota Supra yesterday before he got turned by his teammate, ironically, in the middle of the race yesterday.
That will be a car to watch, no doubt about that. Down amongst the grid of cars that are making their way out onto the track is our Amanda Busick.
Well, and for the last time this season in SRO America, the cars just left us here from the grid to kick off this final race for the entire series, coming down to the Pirelli GT4 race. And there's still some decisions to be made championship-wise. You guys were talking about the 47 and the 120 of Adam Adelson. Well, they're right behind each other on row number 1. Starting in P2 is that 47 of Jason Hart and Scott Noble, right behind in the Elliott Skier Adam Adelson. So what a treat we're going to have in that Pro-Am battle. I was able to talk to Scott Noble this morning, and not only that, he's above Adam Adelson in the points with 4 points, and Scott told me, hey, I'd rather come into this thing 4 points ahead than 4 points behind. So I'm sure a gift of a race that we have ahead of us, but kind of bittersweet, right? Starting in Sonoma all the way to Indianapolis, guys, last race together.
That's right. It's amazing. We're already at the end of the season, and so much drama still left to unfold. It's been a fantastic weekend of racing at IMS. You see the starting grid up on the screen.
I think what's really cool about today in the championship scenario, we talk about a Pro-Am combination, it's going to come down to the Am. You have to believe that Jason Hart and Elliott Skier will get their job done at the beginning of this race. Then it's going to come down to a battle between Adelson and Noble, maybe, for who can get the position to claim the most points. 4-point gap right now. It's very tight, but certainly a lot to play for here.
And that's how it should be, too, in a Pro-Am class. The Am driver typically is the differentiator, but especially true when on the second race of the weekend, by regulation, it's the Am that finishes the race, like you pointed out.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. So you can survive the pressure and get the performance today.
It's a massive field of cars and a 60-minute race, 32 cars in all. One pit stop window right around the midpoint of the race where a driver change must take place. No refueling, no tires, and it's a long 60-minute run on one set of Pirellis. Temperatures are quite low today. We haven't heard much about tire degradation being an issue, but that said, making sure, especially for those in the title hunt, that those Ams have tires to work with for that final stint, that could be crucial.
It really could. And let's not forget that Andy Lee and Elias Sabo celebrated a brilliant victory here on Friday. That's kept them in with an outside shot at this title. They roll off the grid in position 3. They're 20 points back, so they need to win. That's the only way they can gain 20 is with the 25 for the win. They have to win and then hope that there's some problems for both the 47 and the 120. But great finish to the season for the Flying Lizard effort there.
Exactly. I think it is safe to say if Noble and Hart get to the 70% mark, well, maybe not actually, depending on the depth of this field. So there are some different permutations of how this can work itself out at the end. But that said, it'll settle itself on the racetrack here very, very soon. The first of 2 formation laps around this 2.44 mile, 14-turn road course at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Actually, this is the second formation lap. We just saw the safety car pull off, so we're about now ready to get going. I think at least I could be mistaken. Nevertheless, yes, they're getting into formation. This track has put on great racing for GT4 cars over the years.
It really does. It's pretty wide. There's plenty of runoff room in most of these corners, so your elbows can get out. And we've got so many different manufacturers. There's a real melting pot of machinery here at the front of the grid today.
That's right. You see a couple of Porsches in the front 2 rows, but also the Supra and the Aston and Mercedes back there on the 3rd row. BMW in the mix too. Great combination of cars, great field of drivers. Bit of a ragged start, it must be said. The field not fully into alignment, only the first 5 or 6 rows, but it is a slow approach to the VP acceleration zone for Aaron Telitz. That should let a few more rows get formed up before the final green flag of the 2022 season. Into the acceleration zone, there's the green flag, and immediately they fan out 4 and 5 wide down the front straightaway at Indianapolis.
Sanders made a big move to the inside in the Conquest racing machine, but Telitz holds the point at the front from the pole. Jason Hart trying to slide in here. Elliott Skiert to his flank. Andy Lee up and over the curb. He turns Jason Hart and the leader. Telitz is around.
And all around goes Skier as well. Everyone scatters to avoid the carnage. Absolute chaos into the first corner of the final race of the year.
Incredible there. Andy Lee down to the inside, had nowhere to go, jumps over the curb, and obviously contact. Now the Conquest racing machine is out front with Gavin Saunders.
All 3 of the cars that were mathematically in the hunt were involved in that. Andy Lee may have helped to trigger it with the contact that he had. Hart went around, so too did Skier.
Phil Garris from 9th on the grid opens the door for him. He's now up to P3, our champion-elect. He and Stephen McAleer. There's further carnage down in the turn 7 brake zone.
And Gerenzi going around in the Krug Speed Supra. Oh, what a chaotic start to the final race of the year. It's been a clean last 3 races for this series, but all chaos is breaking loose in the season finale. This is Aaron Povolato. His co-driver Ross Schwest won a championship earlier today in GT America, powered by AWS. They're looking for another strong result to close out their 2022 campaign.
Aaron Telitz can't believe it's 2 days in a row that he's got tipped around in turn 1. On Friday it was by his teammate John Jesbray, and then that was just a battle. Big schmozzle there as they all try to funnel into that brake zone. It's very tight there into that first corner. You've got to give each other a little bit of racing room, and the drivers didn't do that here today.
Taking stock of the running order after a chaotic opening lap. Sanders leads Anderson, then Filgaris in 3rd. That is the championship winning car in the silver class that runs 3rd right there. The RS1 Porsche. Mercedes from BMW from Porsche in the top 3.
All of our championship contenders deep in the pack, and how much damage do those cars have as well?
Oh, that becomes the question. It was a thrash just to get Elliott Skier on the grid. Again, that car was damaged. In fact, they're back in the pit lane. Oh, this is disaster for Premier Racing.
Game over. Look at the fluid pouring out from that machine.
It's the opposite side of the car, but the same issue that befell them in the GT America race this morning.
That may be oil rather than water. It's like a different fluid. I think it was radiator, maybe an oil cooler this time around. Skier's jumping out.
Oh my goodness, you feel for him.
That really may hand the championship to Nola Sport. They come into it with a 4-point lead, and with a 120 not going to score points here today. That could be enough. The only thing that could happen is if Andy Lee and Elias Sabo have a car that is not damaged and could grab the win, but they're so deep in the pack, it's almost championship sealed for Nola Sport. Up front, Sanders. What a season they've put together, coming up a little bit shy in the championship, but now a big move by Anderson. Tows that Mercedes down the front straightaway here and puts it to the inside. Sanders tries to go around the outside and maintain position. He's out wide, trying to wrestle with him right now. Filgaris looks on, as does JCD, John Capestro de Betts.
Oh, a little bit of contact there between Anderson and Sanders. It kicks Sanders out wide. Put Anderson to the top spot. That brings Filgaris into the equation. Has to settle in through this single file chicane. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All running together. Top 3 from the silver class. Capestro de Betts, the leader in Pro-Am.
Fantastic dice right here. Filgaris looks back down to the inside of Sanders. JCD to the outside. He's going to try and run it around the outside. He'll get that position. Nice job.
Filgaris with nothing to race for but pride and the motivation of trying to win at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He and Stephen McAleer are the 2022 champions based on their result from yesterday. It was chaos on the start, Calvin. Let's take another look at how this final race of the season began.
Well, you can see they're 5-6 wide here, and they come down to the inside here as Thielett's up front. Then you got Jason Hart. But look for like that fifth car in line. Andy Lee just goes to the brake pedal, got nowhere to go, has to go up and over the curb, turns Jason Hart, that turns Thielett's, and then this contact there with Skier at the front end of the car. And that just punches one of the coolers there on the front end of that Porsche.
Skier had to be mere inches away from escaping the carnage. Instead, he gets caught up, and their championship bid is over.
BMW up front, they're trying to make it 1-2 right now. So Anderson leads, JCD, John Capestro Dubets, trying to get around that Mercedes. That Mercedes looks vulnerable down this long front straightaway.
Yeah, it does. Car handles really well, but some of these other cars, especially the BMW, so strong in a straight line.
Wow, what a roller coaster of emotion for Andy Lee. We saw him stopping on the cool-down lap, throwing his gloves at the crowd, celebrating a victory. And now he's at the opposite end of that spectrum, being involved in the championship and taking out the top three contenders in that move into turn one. He was doing everything he could. He realized there was no room, tried to go up and over the curb, but then you got no control to arrest your speed and just got into the back of Jason Hart.
This would be a huge day for Zach Anderson and Austin Smith if they were to hold on. They've been on the podium several times this year, haven't had that breakthrough win. They're out in front right now. Sanders back in second, John Capestro Dubets, and Phil Garris. Look at this hornet's nest in the mid-pack.
Looking at the bottom of the charts, Jason Hart runs well down the order, 12th in class, 28th overall, but he does have pace. But it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter.
Phil Garris looking up the inside on Sanders. This is for second in class. These two have been fighting for the championship all year long. While we watch the fights on the track, an update from the pits.
We're with the Premier Racing team. They will not be making it back out into competition today. And Adam, I want to go back to the season and a summary for you. 3 wins this year. What will you take with you from this season?
I can't even put it into words. You know, it's been absolutely incredible being able to work with Elliott. He's been an incredible coach and mentor, and one of my very best friends in the whole world. Premier Racing has done an absolutely incredible job all season, even when things are looking super grim and you know, we're not going to be able to make it out there. They just put their heads down and get it done. And just super, super disappointed it has to end this way in both series. So,
Elliott, you said the same thing. You, especially getting the car back and ready for competition, know you guys would have wanted to fight for this championship. Same question to you. What will you leave with this season?
Oh, this has been an incredible season for a multitude of reasons. I think the biggest one is the crew we've put together at the end of the day. The results don't happen without them, and you know, racing is up to chance at times, and you have moments like that happen out there that are really out of your control. But the fact that this team put together a car in 25 minutes between the GTA race and this race, had a 2 a.m. night 2 nights ago. We had issues like this in VIR. Just they have been working like a Le Mans crew time and time again. So this kid has gotten a lot better over here. My best friend that just worked with him. And then to have the team we have, it's just a shame it has to end like this.
Oh, you can hear the heartbreak. A couple of drive-through penalties have been issued. Parker Thompson in car number 7, drive-through for causing a collision. Car 69, that's Aaron Thielett's.
I don't understand that. If they're saying that he squeezed everyone down into the apex, he had the pole. That's a bizarre one, but anyway.
Now this is the Thielett's car here. Damage on the front.
Unless
Team
he's
car
been
behind.
involved with someone. We've only
Well,
seen the
that's-
one incident. Maybe he's turned someone out of the way since then.
That is a possibility.
I find it hard to believe it would be for the turn 1, lap 1 incident there with the front of the pack. Okay, settling back in. Still got a race on our hands here. The two BMWs up front couldn't be any closer. Anderson and JCD literally glued together. Vulgaris, another strong run for that team. 10 wins on the year. Looking strong once again. Ian James, middle of that pack, the number 24 Heart of Racing Aston Martin. Running third. Had a podium run here on Friday. Had great pace. As did Gray Newell in the earlier race this morning, but just came up a little bit shy. We're not sure if he ran out of gas or what happened on that final lap. It cost him a victory. Whoa, there. Deep, that's Piscatell.
Oh, and they make contact, rejoining. James goes around.
Excuse me, that's Karkoski.
Yeah. And James now pointed in the wrong direction.
Well, we've had a lot of races with this series this year. Let's take another look at this, see how it develops. So Karkoski gets in deep, tries to get back on the road. Ian really has nowhere to go and just gets tipped.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. Karkoski can't really get slowed down too much on the grass there. Rejoins, and it's already a two-wide situation with Povoleto on the outside of James. Aaron Povoleto lucky to get away from that one. They were unlucky yesterday. They were issued a speeding penalty, but evidently a timing glitch was at the heart of that. Later review of the data indicated there was no penalty warranted, but it was too late to make up the difference. They had a good run going, he and Ross Schwest, but Ross did clinch a GT America Championship.
Just getting back to the championship, there's been a few too many incidents this year. They really laid the hammer down with the Stewarts at the last round of the championship at Sebring, and seemed like everyone behaved themselves, but this has really not been a great race in terms of everyone giving each other a little bit of racing room. It's so competitive, it's so tight, and if you get too aggressive and too headstrong, these moments are going to happen.
Update from Amanda. The Telitz situation is related to turn one. The team is appealing, so they'll stay out on the track as long as they can.
Yeah, I just don't see where it was Telitz issue, but again, the stewards have multiple angles to look at versus what we saw. But again, it could be another incident. Maybe the team don't know for what incident it was that Telitz is getting that penalty, trying to cut his way back through the field. Maybe he's turned someone around that the team is not aware of, as we are not also.
So incident under review 24 and 35. That is the Karkoski-James contact, I believe, that we saw a little while ago. That one should be cut dry. This is a hornet's nest deep in the pack. At the front of this group is Al Carter for Random Vandals Racing. It's Tim Horrell. Then the 47, this is the recovering points leading car, but now running in 9th in class, Jason Hart driving. Good to get to the inside of Tim, who starts both races, by the way. Typically, by regulations, you have to change, but Tim drives with hand controls, and due to the amount of time the driver change situation takes, to get him installed in the car, he starts every time, then gets carried from the car at the driver change. He has special dispensation to start the race. Toby Grahovic is his co-driver this weekend. Typical co-driver Rafa Matos is racing at VIR in pursuit of a Trans Am championship.
Telitz has got a drive-through penalty, and right now he's not serving it, so he's going to be stopped scoring here soon. Just getting back to the championship scenario, Jason Hart, Scott Noble came in with a 4-point lead. It was certainly tenuous. Really the 120 car that is now out of the action will score no points here today with their main threat, and the other one was Andy Lee and Elias Sabo, who were involved, and they're buried a couple of laps down, so unlikely to do anything. They'd need a win, which is obviously not going to happen. So I don't think it's too early to say that the Nola Sport team are going to claim that championship in Pro-Am. Be second in a row for Jason Hart.
That's right.
Following up on Matt Travis, and he winning the championship last year. Matt has gone off to fight in another championship, but Jason Hart has found a great partner. Scott Noble doesn't have the experience, but he's done an amazing job to be a really strong AM this championship season.
Look at what Jason Hart has done. Talk about back-to-back championships. The 2 years prior to that, runners-up. Oh, Povoleto is off. This is in the 12-13 complex, using the warm-up lane for the oval to get back on track, and that appeared to be some contact. I think that was the Dexter car that he was near. Here is Telitz on the pit lane. Let's back this up. See if we can get a look at what's in Aaron Povolato for a ride. But Aaron Telitz serving that drive-through penalty.
So much potential. There's so much pace in this car this year. Along with Coleman. That's a shame they didn't get a result here this weekend.
Anderson continues to lead. The car behind him, that second BMW in the frame, is John Capestro Dubets. He is the leader in Pro-Am. Then Eric Filgaris and Gavin Sanders. Here's another look at it. Is there any contact here? Yes, there is. How do you read that one?
Well, both drivers narrowly not giving enough room to each other, and I think it was the two tires that kind of grabbed each other and flicked Povolato around. There's one thing when you sort of like clip bodywork, but when you have two tires, they sort of like grab each other. Up front, BM Tippledies continue to lead here. Filgaris looks feisty. Really just want to set up the second half of this race for his teammate. Let's not forget we're about 10 minutes away from that pit stop window opening. Mandatory pit stop time on pit lane has to be 97 seconds. You have a 1 second joker to work with if you didn't use it on Friday, so you can be up to 1 second quicker than that. That may be pivotal as tight as this race is up front.
He's top four, running nearly identical lap times. A couple BMWs, a Porsche, and the Mercedes. All right here within 1.2 seconds of one another. Gavin Sanders there at the tail of the train. Ian Mackay-Stevens came in yesterday with a very slim shot of overcoming their deficit in the silver points battle. Stephen McAleer and Eric Filgaris sealed the deal yesterday, so no title implications here. Those two cars racing for second and third. It's not unusual this year to see them racing with one another. What is unusual is that it's not for the lead. Typically, that's where we found those two teams, but today it's the 51 out in front from Auto Technic.
Yeah, 12 wins between them, but most of them going the way of the 18 car of Filgaris and McAleer, but 11 podiums for Conquest Racing. Just tremendous season. It's only at NOLA, second event on a championship season. We had those crazy conditions there, and a lot of strategy came into play. They got a little bit wrong, but Eric Bachelat and the Conquest Racing team have done a tremendous job. They've made the jump to GT3 competition the last couple of events with immediate performance and success at Sebring. Top team.
Speaking of that team, saw Paolo Karkoski involved in that incident a few moments ago. He's been issued a drive-through penalty for incident responsibility. Similarly, the number 83 car, RS1 Porsche in the AM class, also issued a drive-through penalty. In the case of Karkoski, that takes him out of the final podium spot in the AM class. He and Custodio Toledo looked poised to win the AM class yesterday until Terry Borcheller swept through in the final couple of corners to take a win for himself and Nick Shandy and the Karis Kallis racing team.
The battle for silver, obviously that's been confirmed with the RS1 team grabbing the win, but the battle for third is pretty strong with Kevin Conway, John Jesbray coming into this race with an 11-point lead over Austin Smith and Zach Anderson. Anderson there sitting in the win position. Potential 25 points there up for grabs.
Jesbray's down at
six. So that is a 17-point swing. That would be enough. So Jesbray and Conway got some work to do if they want to hang on to that third position in the point standings.
Mentioned what Terry Borcheller did yesterday, coming through to secure the win in dramatic fashion in the AM class. He's in that position again and all the way up in 5th overall. How about that?
Well, Terry's a legend, had so much success over the years, winning big races and championships. Got this new lease on life, has really been doing a ton of coaching. Got hooked up with Nick Shanny. Patrick Gallagher was working with Nick, and suddenly there were a couple of events that Patrick wasn't available. He called on Terry. They gelled immediately, formed some chemistry. Nick said, do you want to drive with me full-time next year? And Terry said, let's do it. And boy, it's been a wonderful return to full-time competition for Terry Borscheller.
That race yesterday that served as the warm-up act for the Indy 8 Hour, that was not just their first win of the year, but that was their first podium. They had a pair of fourths at Elkhart Lake, Road America, a few rounds ago, but that's it. Big time breakthrough performance for this car, this team, and especially for Nick Shanny, who is very new to racing at this level and has such a great resource to draw from in Terry Borscheller.
Good to see Devin Jones back full-time as well, running with the Bimmer World team. He's running second in class right now, shares that car with James Walker Jr. It's a pretty cool combination with James obviously learned a lot last year running with Bill Oberlin. They had a few wins over the last couple of years.
This would be their best result since they podiumed in the second race at NOLA Motorsports Park. They were third there in May and have not finished better than 7th since.
You can tell us cool conditions why those BMWs are willing to just run totally line astern with no air, getting to the front end on that Auto Technique car.
Well, team cars, in fact, two different classes. Auto Technique first in silver and Pro-Am respectively.
Yeah, they're a really strong team. They've got some exciting driver lineups this year as well. I think they've really learned a lot, and I think they're going to come back even stronger next year. Phil Guerra's just sitting there, keeping everyone in sight. And you know that Mackler wants to come out and finish off this season in style to maybe grab their 11th win of the year. It'll be pretty feisty when we get all the pros on board, the AMs on board for the second half of this race as well. I expect when we get to that pit stop window, a lot of these cars to stay out, the Pro-Am combinations, maximizing the drive time for the pros who started this race.
Dexter just handed a drive-through penalty. That was for the contact with Aaron Povoledo. That drops him out of 5th in silver, and that could have an impact on that fight a little further down the order in silver. That should elevate Jesbray to the 5th spot.
A couple more laps before the pit window opens. Don't have to be the leaders who get to see it first, so it just depends on the timing of that. The silver lineups and the AM lineups, you've got some strategy you can play with there in terms of keeping the driver out a little bit longer or pitting him early. Oh, that was a little close. Didn't need to be that close there. That's the 36 car of James Clay. The AM champions, he and Charlie Postons. Great season they put together. Finished 3rd here on Friday. Had a big win last night, Bimmer World did, in the Pro-Am class in the Indy 8 Hour.
Yeah, that's right. What a race that was. After 8 hours, 800 miles, 0.8 of a second was the difference for the overall win. The Pro-Am battle came down to the last lap too. Here we've got Leah Fouge fighting with Jayden Conwright. And that Mustang, love to see it. Rotec Racing.
Jayden's a real talent. Real talent, has a lot of speed, been running in another GT3 championship here in North America this year and has displayed enormous promise.
Made a pair of starts for this team at Road America, 12th and a 6th. Edgar Lau has been the full season driver. Oh, this is the drive-through for Dexter that we alluded to earlier. But Edgar Lau has had a rotating cast of co-drivers. He's had a few podiums this year. Second twice. Jayden Conwright joined him at Elkhart Lake, a 12th and a 6th as mentioned. Now back here. Winner of the IMSA Diverse Driver Scholarship back in 2021. And is a Lamborghini Junior driver as of January of this year. Getting a chance to hop aboard this GT4 Mustang.
Filgaris is keeping these BMWs in sight. Got a car off in the S's here. Let's wait and see if this car can be moved. Otherwise, they don't like to disrupt that pit window in terms of having a caution. We'll have to wait and see. They've got to determine if that car is going to be okay or whether they delay the pit stop window opening at the 35-minute mark.
Let's take a look and see if we can figure out what happened. It's Horrell fighting with Jaden Lander.
We had a similar scenario yesterday, went off late in the going yesterday and had to retire the car.
Ah, yeah, suspension broken on that machine, so that will not be moving on.
No.
Now, just how vulnerable do the stewards feel this car is?
Big decision to be made. You
Yeah.
only got 10 seconds to make it. Is that pit stop window opening, or are you going to delay it and go full course yellow possibly, get that car out of the way, and then get a little bit of a reset?
Anderson continues to lead Capestra Dubets. They've been flying in formation, and the pit window is open.
It seems they're going to leave that car there feeling it's in a relatively safe spot.
Thing is, it's going to have to stay there, presumably, for
10 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, at least.
Some debris there.
That's been there since the opening lap.
Probably a consequences of that
Yes,
carnage in turn 1.
almost certainly.
Anticipate these drivers staying out there a little bit longer. Filgaris, they have the option of getting McAleer in early. So they roll him through pit lane.
That's a good question. Do they think that if McAleer hops aboard and can find clear track, that's
they
really
all
the
come.
crucial. Ah, here comes everyone.
Yeah, I think there may be a little bit of what if in terms of that car being stuck
Sure.
out there, and they're just playing it safe right now.
That makes some sense. Well,
Typically, you'd keep your pro in a little bit longer in the case of JCD.
right. Will anybody gamble? Borcheller will. It's an M-Class car. He stays out and will sweep through into the overall lead of this race. It's 97 seconds must be spent on the pit lane. Mr. Hall Racing making their change. This will be Johann Schwartz replacing Todd Brown. Johann led briefly yesterday in the pit stop shuffles. I think a lot of these teams think there is that chance of the full course yellow coming out. They want to get that service done.
I know they don't like to do that. I know they like to, they're going to give everyone at least, see if everyone comes in early. If you got all the cars in and out, they could go then, but I don't think they want to disrupt it because that really can throw the cat amongst the pigeons in terms of strategy as to where the safety car would come out and start to delay some of the cars that have not yet hit pit lane.
Stephen McAleer replacing Eric Filgaris.
He's happy.
Why
Nice
not?
solid job. Was deep in the pack. Probably their worst qualifying position of the year, I think. Or did they have one issue where they didn't make quali? But anyway, 9th on the grid.
And many instances this year for them to need to come through the field like they have today. Able to get up to 3rd overall. Everything look clean on the exchange, Cal?
Yeah, I think so. I said that. 5.9 on the Rooster Hall team. That's not going to cut it.
Neither.
Zach Anderson, Austin
Yeah.
Smith, that's more than 1 second under the delta.
Boy, that's the overall leading car
Yeah.
that we think has run afoul of the minimum pit lane time. I'll have to double check that. But for the moment, Austin Smith does lead. This is the car, though, that might be receiving some sanctions here shortly. Now it is Tom Capizzi trying to defend, not for class position, but this is also running interference for the team car. That's the silver class leader up the road. Stephen McAleer aiming to get by.
He said he was struggling with the cool conditions here with that BMW, trying to get tire temperature. Do not change tires in this exchange on pit lane, so it's just him getting back into a rhythm. Obviously, Stephen McAleer has a ton more experience, with Tom being the AM driver in that lineup.
That was an aggressive move by McAleer. Capizzi gave him just enough room. McAleer is through. That puts him second on the road. We do not know the fate of the car that leads, or at least will lead when the pit stops finally do shake out.
So Borchella leads in AM and overall at the moment, and he's just going to keep digging into that pit window, which is 10 minutes long. You've got to be on pit lane by the time the clock gets to 25 minutes to go. Don't have to complete the service, but at least be on pit lane by that time. So they're going to maximize Terry's drive time, trying to create as big a gap as they can. But I think it's all going to be a race. We've got to go yellow at some point, and I think that'll go immediately after that pit window closes. I'm curious to know if they wait for the cars on pit lane to actually get out before if they go immediately, that can have some effect too.
Certainly. Amazingly, I don't think we found ourselves in just this scenario.
Talked about it a lot.
Yeah, all year long. There's Nick Shanny. Picked up that big win yesterday with Terry Borcheller. It comes down to him to finish it off, though. Terry had the dramatic duty at the end to race his way up to the front. RS1 with their AM-class car, Martinez and Calle. This car had a drive-through earlier in the race.
So no tire changes, no refueling. You are allowed to adjust the tire pressures.
Looks like some fluid coming out of that car. It's right where the radiator is.
There is.
On this Cayman. See the steam. Sure, the RS1 team is aware of this.
There's fluid. It has to be from where that car's been sitting. I don't think it would be from a previous pit stop by anyone.
Agreed. Okay, change in overall position there. That's Capizzi giving up a spot to Mackay Stevens. So,
and for the 51 car, I mean, they're definitely in trouble. I mean, they were almost 2 seconds underneath. You only get a 1 second joker. Surprising at this stage of the season. Normally these teams are so dialed in here.
All I can wonder about, both team cars were in simultaneously, and what if the messages get mixed somehow? Which car is supposed to go when? See how confusion could creep into the equation. Look how quickly Stephen McAleer is closing in, though. This is not just for the overall lead, this is also a class battle in the silver class. Austin Smith, for now, holds it. We do wonder about a potential penalty, though. Mackay Stevens also giving chase. Here comes Borcheller. He'll come into the pits with a couple of minutes to spare, perhaps covering for the scenario that you laid out of the safety car coming out as soon as the window closes.
Yeah, because that could certainly happen. As soon as they get to 25 minutes to go, if they suddenly threw the safety car out there, you could be delayed when you immediately exit pit lane, just depending on the timing of everything, how the cars circulate around the circuit. So I like what they're doing, bringing it in 1 lap earlier than they absolutely had to. Should allow things to play out a little bit further. A bit of a crazy race. So much tension and build up for the championship scenarios that all went out of the window in the very first corner of this race here today, unfortunately.
Sure did.
It's a long season to build to that crescendo and then see it kind of deflated like that.
Yep, contact into turn 1 on the first lap, and the top 3 in Pro-Am points, the one championship that was yet to be decided. They were all caught up in it. Here we go with the very front of the field, McAleer and Smith. Stevens not going to wait for a penalty to be issued. He's going to go on the attack. The Rapid Scotsman. He's on the back bumper of Austin Smith in the BMW. He peeks to the inside. Smith opens the door, and McAleer pounces, diving to the inside and grabbing the top spot once again.
This won't take long, did it? Just immediate action there by Stephen McAleer, slicing his way inside there. Most of the cars Should be on pit lane here. Everyone taking it down to the wire. Here's Jason Hart. They have won this championship. Turns it over to Scott Noble. And Jason's one of those guys who's always doing the calculations in his head. He would know what was going on. He would ask, is the 120 car still running? Where is the 8 car? That would have made his frustration initially turn into joy with the championship for him.
Well, last year, he and Matt Travis ran away with the title. They had it clinched before coming to Indianapolis. The 2 years prior, though, Jason knows very well what a last race championship scenario can entail. They lost it in dramatic fashion 2 years in a row. The first year in Las Vegas, then the following year here at Indianapolis. He'll be relieved to not have to think anymore about the potential of heartbreak in the season finale. They will win the title. It's nearly a certainty at this point with 25 minutes left. Pit window closes now. So we get under 25 minutes to go in the season.
Now we're assuming they're going yellow. That's not definitive, of course, if they feel that car is far enough off the racing action. A lot of debris out there. I would think you'd want to clean up. We'll see.
Thinking, though, at least regarding the car that's sitting there, is if it was safe enough to leave there for 10 minutes during the pit window, then it's safe enough.
Just wait and see those cars come out of pit lane, then see what the decision is.
Sure. Just a couple more teams wrapping up their service. Greg Leafouge is in. Damon Sershizin will take over for him, the Canadian driver. Touring car veteran. Also Aaron Thielitz in, set to give way to Todd Coleman, but they've been delayed by a drive-through penalty.
Thielitz had the lead briefly for one lap there as everyone else had hit pit lane. He stayed out to the last possible moment.
McAleer in command, as they have been from the very start of the season. Their advantage over the field has been unassailable. The only races they have not won has been due to mechanical issues, or in one case, misreading the situation relative to the pit window and a full course yellow. It's caught out a few drivers and teams, especially early on in the going. Door is open.
Yeah. I don't like seeing cars at full speed with this. I mean, he got there so anyone else can get to that same track position, and it's hard to leave a driver out there for over 30 minutes waiting for the checkered flag.
This is for a position in the AM class. Postins and Shanny. Postins the much more, or I'm sorry, that's actually Walker, my apologies, different BMW. So not for position, this is Pro-Am and AM.
Shanny's learned a lot this year. He's got a great mentor in Terry Borchella, so much experience. That's what's so great with this format in terms of having that coach or that more experienced driver, as McAleer just lays down the fastest lap of the day at 1:31.295 in the lead.
TRG car off track, and full course yellow is now out. Whether it's for that or for the Krug Speed car that was stranded, we go full course yellow for the first time in this race. Let's get an update from the pits and Amanda.
Well, I was talking to Scott Noble before he got in the Porsche, and he said it's not the way that he wanted it to end for the championship. He did want to fight for it, which you got to commend for that. Jason, you were just on radio with him and said, take it easy, the car's a little messed up. And you also wanted to confirm, is it over? Is it over? When you look at this championship, there's been 7 different winners in Pro-Am. I think I counted 12 different teams have found the podium this year. When you win a season with such parity, how much more significant is that?
I'll add to that and say that Scott Noble, that I'm co-driving with, was not supposed to be racing GT4 cars this year. We had a plan for him to race some lower class cars, and some things happened and worked out, and we ended up in GT4 cars. This is supposed to be a development year, so to go for a championship year one is unbelievable. It speaks to NOLA Sport, to Porsche, to having all 4 corners on that car bent right now. The brakes are really crazy, and it's still running. It's going to bring it home. So thanks to Porsche for that, and thanks to Scott Noble and his family for their choice in me, their trust in me.
I would say that also is a testament to you, Jason. You just mentioned your relationship with Scott. What's been the talk about the relationship development between you and him this season, and what has impressed you of late?
He has a lot of natural ability. He grew up as a motocross kid. I think he's got something like 400 national motocross starts to his name as a junior. So he came with a lot of racecraft and motorcycles, but we're having to change that because you can't quite change direction in a sports car like you can in a motorcycle. So that's been fun, like kind of the reprogram.
Well, I guess we'll be on standby for that movie quote in the official champ interview. Congratulations, Jason.
Thank you very much.
It's a long-standing tradition going back several years. Jason Hart and his longtime co-driver Matt Travis would often frighten me with the quotes that they dialed up from racing movies, really just Hollywood in general. Sometimes it starts to veer down a certain path and makes you wonder what might be coming out of their mouth next, but it's all been in good fun. And that's carried over to this year now. Jason Hart and Scott Noble, amazing. I did not know that this was not in the cards before the start of the year. Kind of fell into this situation. Not a bad debut season. If this is a development season, I wonder what's next.
Yeah, I mean, Scott certainly has a ton of talent, but it's pretty early on his learning curve there, so to bring it home with a championship. And as Jason said, just testimony to the NOLA Sport team. They turn out great race cars, as does RS1, two of the top Porsche teams in our championship. I think they'd like to have won it in a different way, but they all count, and it's a long championship season. It's not all about the finale, but the road to get there. And they've certainly done a lot of hard graft, a couple of wins on the year. So it's very well deserved.
Jason knows how difficult it is to win these things. He's had them slip through his grasp on a number of occasions, and I don't think he's going to look sideways at this title at all. He'll take them however they come.
I'm sure when he was backwards in turn one, he wasn't thinking about that. It's like, oh my goodness, another one's going to get away.
Well, that's the thing. We were inches away from that being a totally different story. Elliott Skier was so close to escaping. Just the slightest bit of contact sent him around, ultimately punctured some kind of fluid repository, whether it was a radiator or something with oil. It wasn't entirely clear, but that car and a retirement. Had they escaped, though, with the Flying Lizard car involved and the NOLA Sport car involved, we would have had a totally different conversation for this race.
They'd have been in great shape. Could
Yeah.
have been a totally different scenario to what we're looking at now.
Final 18 minutes of the season. This Pirelli GT4 America Championship going from strength to strength. You look at the car counts, constantly up over 30 cars, sometimes approaching 40 cars at certain events. What Jack Baldwin and the rest of the staff have done to make this a destination for drivers, some on the way up in their careers, others, like a Terry Borcheller, for instance, finding a second wind in his racing career, and everything in between. It's proven to have a little something for everyone.
Looking at how they run right now, we believe the 51 car of Austin Smith, once the stewards catch up with things, he was definitely underneath the minimum pit stop delta, so I think he's going to have to serve a drive-through. That may leave it to Mackay Stevens to go chase after Macaulay. We've seen that a lot this year, but it just seems like that Mercedes here down the front straightaway is just losing too much time to really compete for the win. I think another thing to be looking at is Nick Shanny there sits 6th overall leading in AM. Charlie Poston's 13th overall second in AM. Ken Poston's cut through this field and maybe pick up another victory to put the icing on the cake to their championship season.
Definitely a possibility. The other element, top two in Pro-Am, moves to tail. Easy and Walker. Identical BMW M4s, but from two different teams. Still have a chance on this restart to try and find it out for a class win. Edgar Lau actually not far behind, just one car in between. Edgar in that Mustang. We saw Jaden Conright wheeling earlier in the race. Well, this Indianapolis Motor Speedway has been a great venue for not just this championship, but all throughout the weekend. Compelling racing in everything from Fanatec GT, part of Intercontinental GT Challenge this weekend with the Indianapolis 8-hour, touring car race just before this one was phenomenal. Pirelli GT4 America has been putting on a show, and GT America powered by AWS as well. Lights off on the safety car. We'll rack them up again and turn them loose with 15 minutes on the clock. It'll be under that, right around 14 minutes when we go back to green. No championships left to be decided. McAleer and Filgaris will be the 2022 Silver Class champions. In AM, this was settled long ago. Charlie Postins and James Clay. And as they run, due to the misfortune for two other teams that were in the mix, NOLA Sport appears poised to win the Pro-Am title with Scott Noble and Jason Hart. But still the chance to go for race-winning glory at Indianapolis hangs out there for everyone still running in this field.
Yeah, and we mustn't lose sight of that, right? We're here at this iconic venue to be able to tell your family, friends over the years, I won at Indianapolis. That is a special, special moment. And a lot of these drivers now have that opportunity to either add to their record here or claim their first victory.
If you're lucky enough to have done so, I promise you, you will tell anyone who will listen that you accomplished that feat. Doesn't matter if it's overall or in class, on the oval or on the road course, a win at Indy is something special. Safety car is off. Stephen McAleer leading this field.
Sabo there a couple of laps down,
yeah.
sits second on the road, so it's going to be a bit of a bottleneck there for some of the chasers.
The car might have had some braking issues throughout this weekend too, so hopefully those are all rectified. You can see all the racer tape on the front of that car. It was caught up in that turn 1 incident that turned this championship battle in Pro-Am on its head. Here we go, into the acceleration zone. Stephen McAleer pulls away. Sabo right there. You can't pass until you get to start-finish, so that bottles everyone up behind him. That's great news for McAleer. Look at this. It'll be 3, maybe 4 wide down the front straightaway. Did we learn anything on lap 1, folks?
We recognize that McAleer can just take off and get the hammer down.
Stephen splits the middle. He's up to second. Big move from the Evanston, Illinois native. We got a car off in the grass. That's to the left-hand side of the screen. Is 3-4 wide temporarily. Here comes Shanny. He's looking aggressive. Edgar Lau squeezing through in a 3-wide situation, and then he clips off the nose of Moise Uretsky. Around he goes, right in front of the field. That was from third in class.
Shanny escaped there. He's got a lot of damage on the back end of the car. I believe that was Nick Shanny's car, the AM class leader right now. We'll have to see how this plays out. Take another look at this.
Contact between the Mustang and the Aston, right in front of Sabo, who's already several laps down, ends up well off the track. Everyone makes it through cleanly, though. It's like significant damage for Edgar Lau. Well, or maybe it's not. Looking at that left rear wheel, something looked a bit strange. He is able to continue. Okay, drive-through penalties for short pit stops to 80, 51, 112, 124, and 16. Most important is the 51. From second overall, Austin Smith will have to serve a drive-through.
He does. Stevens is already around him, so he's now going to try and chase after McAleer, but McAleer just took off there on that restart, timed it perfectly, and as you said, you're not allowed to pass before the stripe, so everyone was waiting for Elias Sabo to essentially create a lane for everyone to get by him, so a little bit of a stack up there.
Smith is in the pit, serving that penalty. Shanny on the outside, Gray Newell to his inside, and then further to the inside is the Auto Technic machine.
Postins is by. Postins is by for the AM class lead. The 36 car from Bimmerworld has made that move on this restart lap. So as we anticipated, Shanny was going to be under pressure immediately to hang on to that AM lead.
The camo striped car, that's Lageman. That's actually second in AM now. Change in position there with Shanny dropping down to third on that restart. Phil Singer, fourth in AM. That's the red-nosed BMW twitching under braking. Toby Grahovic, a Pro-Am class car right there in the mix as well. And keep an eye on Johann Schwartz, who's at the tail of this train, the Rooster Hall BMW. We know he is fast. Does he have the time to get to the front? Shanny drifts wide. That's going to allow Grahovic through. Gray Newell will want to follow because Newell is racing Grahovic for position.
Yeah, my money's on Schwartz here to get that car on a podium at least.
Absolutely.
I think Postons is way down the road now, but Schwartz certainly has some pace here to play with.
This is Johann Schwartz, but he has to come to the pit lane. He's one of those that was handed the penalty. So take that out of the equation. Rooster Hall comes up with a drive-through penalty for a short pit stop. Did not meet the minimum time.
Very strange to see so many cars receiving that penalty this deep in the season. Normally teams are all dialed in, got that software set up to know when to release the cars, but several cars, not just a tenth or two under, a couple of seconds.
McAleer leads Stevens by 2.2 seconds. Then the Pro-Am leader, Tom Capizzi, trying to hold off James Walker Jr., who is right there. Capizzi, his first BMW in the train. Walker the second. It's Auto Technic against Bimmerworld. And how about Kevin Conway up to third in silver? Remember the points implications we talked about earlier. That should be good enough to clinch the third spot for him and John Jesbray.
It will be. And up front, Mackay Stevens is keeping McAleer honest. He just traded laps with him within a tenth of a second, so the gap is 2.2. So McAleer is not taken off. And they're running laps within half a second of the fastest lap of this race.
Poston's leading in AM. He's in the 8th spot. Overall, Forbush with a nice strong run to 9th overall, 4th in silver. Oh, big hit. That's Shanny. Into the safer barrier, oval turn 1, full course yellow.
It was a big one coming through turn 11 there.
Take it back. That was oval 2.
Yeah.
And he
Did
got
he get
a
help?
nudge.
Gray Newell to the inside there and just turns him. It's going to be a big one.
Not sure Newell had much room on the inside there. There's the rotation and smack. Driver's side door.
Yeah, that was unnecessary. Just needed to give each other a little bit more room. We've seen that so often this season with this particular championship. It's a shame to see these cars getting destroyed like this. If the drivers would just be a bit more patient and be a bit more aware.
That is the winning car in the AM class from just one day ago. Well, this tightens everyone up again. Breaks off what was shaping up to be a brilliant duel for the Pro-Am lead.
It'll be tight on time, though, to see any action.
I know. The good news is Shanny did seem to be driving away, so it's a matter of, is there any fluid? Is there much debris to clean up? If not, he might have a chance for a late start. Shanny's found a safe place to tuck that car away. That's the good news as well. Great work by the camera crew, too, to pick that up right as it was happening. See McAleer closing in on the safety car. Now we just have to see what kind of cleanup is required. Doesn't appear to be too much, actually.
You're looking at close to 3 minutes with a safety car lap here, so maybe 4 minutes on the board if they can get it done in this single lap. If not, it's going to be a real final lap shootout, I would think.
Unfortunately for Stevens, there's lap traffic in between. Edgar Lau, who had that spin, had been third in Pro-Am, now down in 10th. He splits the top two, and crucially, as we saw in that last restart, you cannot pass until the Art of Bricks by regulation.
And that's a long way from the acceleration zone.
Right, especially when McAleer accelerated as early as he did, as is his right.
Yep.
If he's smart, he'll do it again. Use that to his advantage with the lap traffic there to build a gap. Under 7 minutes to go. Let's hear from Amanda. So much drama still in Pro-Am.
Well, JCD's been on the horn with his teammate Tom Capizzi on this restart. And what kind of advice are you giving Tom?
Deep rest, buddy. We're almost there. We just got to get this done now. So he's got to hit his marks, make sure to not give that inside lineup, and see if we can bring it home.
You guys started 17th overall on the grid, 10th in class. When you see this performance where you are right now, talk about your stint to kick off this race.
It's really just the will of this team. Auto Technic's given us a great BMW all year. The first turn got really crazy there, and we were very fortunate to be one of the cars to make it through, and by doing so, we gained a lot of track position and found ourselves P2 overall very quickly.
Looking for their third win on the year. You talk about McAleer is smart. I think he is smart.
I do too.
I think he's going to make it happen, and like he shot out of a cannon here when it's time to go. Key is going to be if they do get released this time, or if it's going to take another lap of cleanup.
Incident is under review, by the way, 20 and 24. That
light's still on. So
yeah, you're right.
Going to burn through another 2.5, 3 minutes here.
Yeah, it is typically about 220, I think, is what we've been seeing, 225 on these safety car laps. This last one actually was a little bit faster because they hadn't totally caught the pace car yet. So it should leave us with a little bit in play, assuming the cleanup can be expedited. Being told it will be green the next time by. Just about 2.5 minutes on the clock.
Now these
drivers, 2 laps?
Yeah, now these drivers, yeah, it should be 2 laps to go. Drivers have got to really start to prepare these tires a little bit. You can see them weaving around. That's really just to clean off any pickup that you may have, work the brake against the throttle, maintain that tire temp, and just be ready to go. It's going to be tough here for Mackay Stevens. He really needs Ed Gallau to go with McAleer, but hard to send that message. Capizzi's going to be under pressure from Walker Jr.
Yes, he will. Those two were dicing just prior to this full course yellow. Conway is behind them, but then is Ross West in third in the hunt for Pro-Am. Uretsky has been quick these last few events. He runs fourth.
Great recovery for Schwez. Remember,
yeah.
Povolato had that big moment there through turn 13, got sent for a big ride, and what a weekend for Ross West. Claiming the GT America GT4 title by sweeping the weekend.
He basically needed to win out to do it, and that's exactly what he did. He delivered it a big way. It was just this morning that was wrapped up for Ross West, the native of New Orleans.
See these drivers doing a lot of prep here. That could then transition into some issues into that brake zone the first couple of corners when they have to get going. Macaleer's just going to stack this pack up here and just try and time that run off of 13 and get as much of a gap and take the pressure off from Mackay Stevens, who's got that lap car he's got to get around.
Here we go. One final time in the 2022 season for Pirelli GT4 America. It is time for a restart. Stephen McAleer looking to close out a dream championship season with yet another win. He's into the VP acceleration zone and he is going. Mackay Stevens also is going, but again, he can't complete that pass until start finish. He can pull out of line and he does so, trying to time it just right. We're back under green at Indianapolis, 2 laps to go.
Stevens did all he could do, just get alongside that Mustang, not try and lose too much ground to the Porsche up front. Side by side with the 2 BMWs. Capizzi there, I think, is over, and he touches the other BMW.
Those were the top two in Pro-Am. Around goes Walker. Everyone scrambles. It's carnage in turn 1.
Capizzi just didn't have the grip. I was looking at a lot of these drivers just not prepping their tires for this restart. Meanwhile, up front, be a lap and a half to go here if we don't go full course yellow again. See a lot of debris there down that back stretch.
Capizzi now under pressure from Schwest. I suspect that incident also will come under review. Postins is the AM class leader. That's the 3rd car in line. Capizzi goes wide. Schwest, despite the damage, comes through. It could be a perfect Sunday at Indy for Ross Schwest. Just 1.5 laps away from his 2nd win on the day in 2 different series.
Yeah, Capizzi there, just too defensive, really compromised his line through turn 7 at 0 exit speed. Easy for Ross Schwest to make that move.
This is Toby Grahovic making a look to the outside of Postins. 2 cars, 2 different classes. Grahovic in his first competitive start since this race last year.
This is a monster restart lap for Toby Grahovic.
Yeah.
Going to be looking at a podium finish potentially.
He restarted 12th overall, somehow picked his way through the chaos as the white flag waves above the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Just one lap left in the season. Stevens closing in on McAleer. The fight is on in Pro-Am and Am, a little further behind.
Wild finish here. Schwest is looking in great shape.
Grahovic around Capizzi. This is for second. They slam doors. Grahovic up another spot. Now he can try and run down Schwest for the Pro-Am win.
As Posters there right in the mix as well on the 36 car. He leads in Am.
But Filsinger is second. That's the red car right behind him. Here comes Mackay Stevens. He's drawn a bead on Stephen McAleer all of a sudden.
Can he pull a surprise here on McAleer? Stick it down the inside. There is opportunity here through this little sequence of corners. McAleer keeping it tight, not making that little error, not opening up the door. Mackay Stevens set up here to try and get a run through turn 10. Really wide entry point. Mercedes trying to get the power down early. Does he put it down the inside into the brake zone for turn 12? Is he close enough?
It may come to one last lunge to the inside here in turn 12, but Stevens isn't close enough to make the move. These two teams have been the top teams in the championship all year long. McAleer out in front. Stevens puts the bumper to him. Through turn 14 for the final time, coming up to complete the 2022 season. And the champions, McAleer and Filgaris, will win yet again, holding off a spirited charge from Mackay Stevens to close out the 2022 season. Ross Schwest and Aaron Povoledo take the Pro-Am win ahead of Toby Grahovic by just a few tenths of a second. And in the Am class, Filsinger sweeps around Postins to grab the win for Auto Technic, a 6th place overall finish and the win in the Am category.
Wow, a little bit of drama there to finish off our season, Ryan. That was fantastic stuff there after that restart. Everyone putting it totally on the line. Lots of changes for position and new winners suddenly coming out here in the final race of the season.
For Rob Walker and Alex Filsinger, their second win of the season. They won race 2 in the Am class and Road America. They get it done again. How about that charge from Mackay Stevens? I thought for a moment he might have a shot.
He did. He certainly kept it really tight, didn't he? Gave him a little nudge there going through turn 13 on the final lap. Not enough to unsettle McAleer. Perfect poise, didn't make the mistake. Just a brilliant season for that whole group. Win number 11.
Wow. Total domination. But Stevens doing what he's done all year. He's been the closest competition that RS1 has had. Having Sanders too for his part with Conquest. Not quite enough for McAleer and Filgaris. The strength of that pairing, that strength of the Porsche and the RS1 team, the total package in 2022.
Well, that had a little bit of everything, didn't it?
Every race this weekend, Calvin. Every single one has had high drama. How many races were settled on the final lap? It seems like just about all of them at least had one class that came down to the wire.
It was exciting. I think the biggest disappointment was how the championship was basically settled there in the opening turn of the opening lap for the Pro-Am win. But other than that, we saw a lot of great racing, sometimes a little bit too tight, a little bit of argy-bargy, some incidents we didn't need to see, but that seems to have been the mantra with this this championship this year.
For sure. Provisional results up on the screen. McAleer Stevens 1-2 in silver. Conway does bring Smooch home in third. That clinches third for Kevin Conway and John Jesbray. In Pro-Am, Schwest held off Grahovic. Tom Capizzi settles for the third spot in Am. Filsinger on the final lap got by Postins. They both had to work their way through. How about STR 38, brand new team, a podium in the Am class in just their second race. Associated, of course, with Samantha Tan Racing, but a new operation based out of SoCal, 10th overall here today.
Really great run for that team here this weekend. Had the pole position in TCX earlier this weekend with Walsh, so really good debut run for that group.
Should mention, too, for Tim Horrell and Toby Grahovic, who come home second in Pro-Am. That's a first podium on the season for Tim, who's run the entire campaign. Grohovic jumping in for the first time this weekend, and that's a big deal for those two. Hope to see more of Tim in the future in Pirelli GT4 America. Oh, dramatic conclusion to the SRO America season. All of the categories now done for 2022. All that's left is the banquet tonight here in Indianapolis. And then the plans begin, if they haven't already, for 2023.
There'll be a lot of bench racing tonight at the bar, Ryan.
I expect you're right. Always the case when racers get together. A few libations might help to liven it up somewhat. But that was good fun, that final restart. Glad we got it in. Glad also that Nick Shanny appears to be all right. That was a big hit that he took.
Big hit. Yeah, I'm sure he's okay. The fact he was driving the car away from that incident, and it was a relatively quick cleanup, so we got that restart and finished the season under green. Poston's there. He'll be a little bit frustrated that he lost that lead on the final lap. Been the cherry on the top of their championship season if he could have brought it home.
Yeah, not the best way to go into the offseason, knowing that you were a lap away from another win and you've got the rest of the winter to dwell on that. But it's hard to quibble with the year that they've put together, all the wins and the championship, of course. And this is, again, we talked about it some at Sebring, but James Clay and Charlie Postons weren't even supposed to be in this championship. This was supposed to be a second GT3 car with a totally different driver lineup. A testing crash wrote off one of their M4 GT3 chassis, and they end up with this GT4 program and an M-Class championship. Let's go to Victory Circle at Indianapolis, where we find Amanda Busick.
Well, Alex Filsinger and Rob Walker here, winners. And Alex, I want you to take us through that restart and that last lap, because it was pure chaos from our standpoint.
I just did everything I could. I went as deep as I could possibly go, gave as much as I could, and got lucky. Charlie made a mistake at the last second and gave me a hole, so I ran with it.
Rob, I was over at Auto Technic talking to JCD. You guys end up with the win here. What was your response when you saw Alex take the lead?
I was really excited, really surprised. It was an amazing drive from Alex, absolutely killing it today.
Last win on the season for this team.
Yeah.
Great job. Great way to go into the offseason. And again, as we talked about earlier, a win at Indianapolis, always a special thing.
Very cool. Do see a notice come up that the incident between the 52 and the 82 is under review, as you would expect.
Yeah, so what would that affect? 52 fell back to third, so they, at the moment, would be the last car on the Pro-Am podium, fifth overall. That's right.
Uretsky will probably be promoted, I would think, because
I suspect so.
Capizzi got a little bit wrong there, unfortunately.
Yep, that was my read, too. Back down to Amanda.
With Stephen McAleer and Eric Vilgaris. What a season, gentlemen. And I know that you'll go into the offseason just thinking about this one, a year of dominance, 11 wins. When you look at the highlights of what this season has been between you two, and I know that there's been some kind of controversy from competitors, but what does this say to everybody?
All right, this is a massive deal for us. You know, I think the chemistry between Eric and myself right from the get-go, you know, we had a great opening round at Sonoma, and we've just kind of never looked back. And, you know, I think every team has some rocky races, which we did. We got a little concerned for a moment. But, again, credit to the RS1 team, and thanks for the opportunity through Eric and Community Beer. It's been one heck of a season.
Eric, from the beginning of the season to now, where do you feel you've grown most as a driver?
Well, one of the things I think that I was up for the challenge and actually asked for the challenge was for Steven and I to switch the driver orientation, driver 1 and driver 2. And it was because I wanted the challenge. We did that at Road America. We did that this weekend. You know, there's a lot of really good guys in the driver 2 category, and I want that challenge. I want to raise my game and to raise their level. And with Steven's help, you know, that's been happening all season. So, you know, I'm really proud of this RS1 team. They do everything, you know, during the race weekend, before the race weekends, and Community Beer Works, it's their 10th anniversary. So to have not only the championship, but we've now won 11 races.
Awesome, guys.
Great job, great effort all season long. Yeah, that car has been the one everyone's been chasing since Sonoma.
Yeah, they're the benchmark right now. Everyone else needs to take this off season and try and step up their game a little bit, because, you know, they've had the dominant car since the beginning of the year, but they didn't rest on their laurels. They continued to tinker, work on that car turning those dials, turning those knobs that you can see right there to make this car fast every single weekend, and then the drivers did their bit as well, of course.
Credit to Porsche, too. It's worth noting this is a new generation Cayman that debuted this year, and right off the bat, we saw it first running in GT America as an invitational car before it was fully homologated, but then at Sonoma in full GT4 spec, that thing was a rocket ship right from the word go. Back to Amanda.
Well, I just have to point out we are standing on the bricks here at Indianapolis, and you talk about a day that this guy has had, winning the GT America Championship and GT4, backing it up with a win here, Ross. And when you reflect on this day, standing on the bricks here in Indianapolis, what'll come to mind?
I can't think of a better place to have such a great weekend, to have 3 wins and seal the championship in GT America. As a kid, we used to come to the 500 every year, so the place is very nostalgic to me. I used to come here with my family, so I literally can't think of a better place to have a championship.
Well, Aaron, you get the win here at Indianapolis as well. You were talking about the spin and how far that put you back early on to kick off this race. Talk about maintaining the composure to keep this team in it.
Yeah, that's a big sports psychology question of how I didn't absolutely go crazy. I mean, we lost so many spots on the start having to go through the grass. I think I repassed several guys 3 times today, and I thought, come on, I've already done this, not more work. I mean, we want to put on a good show here for SRO and for our team, but not that much of a show. I'm just, hats off, this team, SRO Motorsports Racing, we've got so many new guys that have gelled so quickly and worked so damn hard with Ross at the helm, myself, and then this car, this Aston Martin, I got to say, through thick and thin, I think it's probably one of the best all-around race cars you could have to take into competition that is this fierce. So congrats to all the competitors. It's been a hell of a season. There's so many good teams, so many good drivers, so many good cars, so many good crews. To end on a high note like this is just vindication of all the hard work that everybody has done on this team. I can't thank them enough. Boys, I love you guys. Thank you so much. Ross, thank you so much.
Great job, guys.
Champion here. Champion.
Great job, guys.
Congratulations to our winners here in Indianapolis. Gentlemen, that is it from us here on Pit Lane at IMS. Exciting to share the season with you all.
Certainly was, Amanda. Thank you very much. And yeah, for Ross Schwest and Aaron Povoleto there, shades of 1985. Danny Sullivan, spin to win. And how about this, too, for Schwest? How many people can say they've won at Indy twice in the same day?
Yeah, that's pretty rare.
It's got to be a short list. This, though, is really where the Pro-Am Championship was settled. This initial run down into Turn 1. Final race, final start of a race of the season. And look here, the Flying Lizard car just too late on the brakes up over the curb. And both that car, the NOLA Sport car, and you could throw Elliott Skier and the Premier Racing car into the mix. Those were the 3 that had a shot at the title, all 3 involved.
Total chaos there. We see Karkaski gets a little bit wide there down into Turn 1 as well. He tips Ian James around, takes out a really good car.
He did. Here is the spin we alluded to. This is Ryan Dexter fighting with Aaron Povoleto. Around goes Povoleto. It looked all lost at that moment. Well, we now know the result. Big move here. McAleer, after jumping aboard this car after the driver change up to the inside of Austin Smith, that put him out front. A late restart. Late in the going. McAleer jumped away, but some sketchy racing. Close moments further back. Aggressive move by Mackay Stevens to clear the traffic.
That was beautifully dodged there on dirty tires to really squeeze on the brake pedal a little bit later. Quick spin there on the restart for Ed Galau. A lot of cars involved. Elias Sabo goes to the outside. And then this was a big one here for Nick Shanny. At one point he had the lead in the M class. Gets tipped there by Gray Newell. Heavy impact.
Leads to a 2-lap dash to the checkered flag. Again, McAleer making good his escape on the break. Then to the inside, here comes Mackay Stevens. He would charge up and challenge for the win before it was all said and done, but a big moment here. Tom Capizzi gets it all wrong, and that had major implications in the Pro-Am class as well as the Am.
Yeah, he drew a penalty for that one, so that cost him, and at the line that was very tight between the 2 championship contenders full season long.
Top 2 in the standings, top 2 on the road. Eric Filgueres celebrates win number 11 to go in his championship campaign alongside Stephen McAleer for RS1. Alex Filsinger coming through on the final lap to take AM class honors. What a race it was. And of course, Pro-Am to Schwest and Povoleto for Schwest Povoleto Racing. That's a wrap on the 2022 campaign for Amanda and Cal and our entire crew. I'm Ryan Marine. So long from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.